said it's home. If I quit this season, I still be the greatest.
And welcome back to the Skyhawk, a sports talk podcast here at the SAAC in Martin, Tennessee. Davis Greger here alongside me, Chris Brinkley, our first guest of the show. Head coach of the UT Martin men's basketball team, Ryan Ritter, joins us. Coach, a good week, 2-0. That's obviously always a good feeling to go into.
Yeah, great week for the Skyhawks. Obviously got a good one at home and then went on the road and found a way to win. So made Sunday a little nicer.
And Coach mentioned it, thrilling double overtime victory for UT Martin over North Alabama on Wednesday, 105-103, and then went on the road, beat Chicago State 94-71 in the Windy City. That's just the start of a 3-game road trip as UT Martin will hit the road and play Rice and McNeese coming up this weekend. But we want to go back to North Alabama, Coach. You trailed by as many as 13, but kept chipping away at that lead, ending up winning 105-103, and really some clutch plays towards the end of the game.
Yeah, I mean, the game of basketball is played 40 minutes, and obviously we didn't come out the gate real strong. I think it was 25-13 or 25-12, something like that at that point. And we know our offense is going to get rolling at some point. We've got an explosive offense, but really thought we found a way to get stops in the first half, kind of turned our momentum around, and ended up going into halftime down 3 and beat a really good North Alabama team who will be good. Probably top 3 or 4 team in the A-Sun.
I mean, I was shocked to even see they were picked 7th. I mean, they had 18 wins last year and then went to the CBI or the CIT. They went to one of those postseason tournaments. They had a really good year.
Yeah, it's funny that you say they were picked 7th because I think that was, every other publication had them at 3 or 4, and then their league voted them 7th. So, again, I won't be shocked to see that team be a 3, 4, 5 team. They're tough. They have an identity. Their coach does a great job. Good win for us.
And Jordan, he has a new career high, 34 points, but wasn't the only one that did some work. Isa Muhammad recording a career best 18 rebounds, goes for 18 points, and then Jacob has a double-double, 14 and 10. But, again, this game, we talked about it before Chicago State, that it was the depth of this team that really showed in that game. Sebastian comes off the bench. He didn't play in 2 games. Got 2 DNPs, but comes out and has 11 points off the bench. Kobe, he comes in and hits 2 threes. So you look at the depth of your team and just a complete team effort really against North Alabama. What'd you see? Yeah,
I mean, you hit it right on the head. Those 3 guys, Jordan, Issa, Jacob, they're playing at a really high level. They're very efficient offensively. Obviously, Issa's doing a heck of a job cleaning up. Him and Jacob cleaning up the defensive glass. But it really is contributions from everywhere. And Sebastian Mendoza is mentally tough as a dude as I've coached. He does not play on the road. It's tough. He has a chance to maybe sulk and pout about not getting an opportunity, but instead he comes in and goes 3 of 4 from the 3-point line, scores 11 points, and then Kobe's just as solid as it gets. Hadn't shot the ball particularly well up until North Alabama, but ended up, making 2 threes and really igniting us. So it's going to be someone different every night. Those 3 guys, Jordan, Issa, Jacob, or who we lean on. But, after that, it's a plethora of guys who can make major contributions for us.
Coach, with all the analytics now in basketball, we go to double overtime, and on the air, I'm like, conditioning could be really a factor here. Even back when you played, though, there are more timeouts. There are more lags in the game and spaces where you're not running up and down the floor. How big is conditioning in a double overtime game? And as a coach, how do you make sure your team is better conditioned than the opponent?
Well, I think, condition and depth kind of go hand in hand. When you're not having to play 5 or 6 guys, 35-plus minutes, you can keep some of those guys rested in the second half, get them a little longer break. But, I did think that, for a double overtime game, I thought our guys were relatively fresh going into overtime. And that's because we were able to check 10 guys into the game and play quality minutes in that second half without dropping off. So, I think every bit is physical conditioning. I think mental conditioning is big as well. That's a 50-minute game, and, basketball is a game of mistakes and how you respond to it. So I thought more so than anything, our guys were mentally fresh going into those overtime games.
What do you look for? What's the body language and things you see on the court when a player's tired?
Well, I think it, like I say, it usually starts with the mental fatigue when you miss a shot or you make a mistake and how you respond to that. That's usually the first sign of someone getting tired where, hey, we got to get them out. It's not going to be because of a bad shot or maybe a turnover. It's going to typically be because of a response to a adverse situation. That's usually when you see fatigue, whether it be physical or mental, creep into our guys.
And we've talked about these 3 guys, Jordan, Jacob, and Issa, but they really aren't the only closers on this team. You can trust a plethora of guys to take that last shot. And what's it like when you can trust not just one guy, not just 2, not just 3, but really your whole team, like, hey, we're going to get him the ball, and we can trust him to win the game?
Well, I think, obviously we're averaging 86 points a game. We're pretty good at putting in the bucket right now. 3 of our last 4 games, we've had 11 threes or more. And so for us, we know, Jordan can score the ball late. We know Cruz can. Those other guys can space the floor, make shots when it's kicked to them. And, really we feel good about closing games. It's that defensive side. Who's our closers on that? And I think that's really what we're searching for these next what do we got, 6 non-conference games? That's what we're trying to figure out going into January, February, March.
Based on what teams have seen in film, have teams changed the way they guard you?
Yeah, obviously people want to keep us out of transition. We're really good there. But as we continue to make threes, like I said, 3 out of the last 4 games, making 11 threes, it's harder to collapse on Jordan. It's harder to collapse on Issa. These guys stepping up and make shots is really making our offense explosive.
And moving to Chicago State on Saturday, biggest margin of victory in a road game since 2017, beat Chicago State 94-71. Jordan has 20 points in that first half, and the score being 40-35. He had 20 of your 40. When a guy catches fire like that, what's your philosophy as a coach? Do you say, okay, feed the hot hand, or let the game just flow naturally?
Yeah, I think it's a balance of both, and I think it depends who it is, really. We don't have a set rotation where we take guys out at specific minutes, but we let Jordan rock a little bit longer in that first half. Obviously, he hits 4 threes, and obviously guys got it going. You want to get them touches, and typically guys that can make plays are able to make the right play. And so even though Jordan had 20. I think he was willing in the second half to facilitate the ball more and get Cruz involved, and that's what you see from good players and good teams.
And Jacob finishes with 25 and 8 as well. Both of them combined for 52 points. But Kobe, want to go back to him. He's been on this team for 3 years. He's been with you for all 3 years here, a transfer from UAB. He hits 2 threes in that game against Chicago State for the second straight game. And Kobe, throughout his career, not known as a three-point shooter here. Coming into the UNA game, had 15 made threes in his entire time here, and then he's got 5 made this season. How have you seen him grow in the offseason as a shooter?
Well, that was his biggest challenge. First off, everybody knows Kobe's my dude, man. 3 years, he's going to play hard. He's going to be a great dude. He's going to be a great ambassador for us. But we made the decision to kind of move him off the ball and play him more at the 2-3 this year. And the one thing he had to do was he had to shoot the ball from the perimeter. And he didn't start off great the first 4 or 5 games, and it's just telling him, hey, man, you've put in the work. Like, you've been doing this since March. Trust it. And, obviously the last 2 games he goes 4 or 5, I believe it is. And there's no doubt he's going to shoot 35+% from 3 for us. He's just a dude that works on it. You trust him, and he can make shots when you need it.
Seems like a simple adjustment to go from the 1 to the 2, but there's a lot going on there.
Yeah, in reality, his freshman year, he played 31 minutes a night at the point guard. Mm-hmm. Last year, primarily backed up Jordan, but played alongside him some, and now he is playing, strictly with Jordan or with Justice, and for us, it allows him to guard some of the best players off the ball, but also allows him just to space the floor on offense and really utilize his aggressiveness defensively and not worry about running a team.
And now the first 5-2 start for UT Martin since 2016-17. For you, what's clicking right now from the team here in year 3 compared to the past couple of years?
I think the biggest thing is we're finding some toughness on the road. We're 2-1 on the road. Obviously, we lost a neutral game to Prairie View, but I think guys understanding, we have an identity. We can throw the ball to 3 different guys that can get hot and score. But I think from a defensive standpoint, we've taken a notch up of our toughness. We got punked at Prairie View, and that just is what it is. And I think from those games moving forward, we've made it a priority to get 50-50 balls, to offensive rebound, to close up defensive possessions. And I think you're seeing a team that is growing in the right direction right now.
And I like the chemistry, even though it's early in the season. There are a lot of newcomers on this team. You guys haven't played together a lot, but when the defensive chemistry is right, you win games.
Yeah, and we're finding that out. We're getting better game by game, really, and we try to target. That's what you try to do in the non-conference. You try to find out who your team is and how to get them better. And I think we're finding out how we want to play. I think we're cleaning up some stuff defensively. I think we've got the toughness cleaned up. Now it's some actual X's and O's on the defensive side, and we'll continue to do that, win or lose. We're not going to sit here and get too high because we're 5-2. We play 2 really good teams this weekend on the road, and it's going to be a heck of a battle that way.
And just quickly about those 2 teams, Rice and McNeese this weekend. What are you looking for your team against those opponents?
Well, Rice is different. They're in the American Conference. They're going to be a really good team, but they have with all due respect, they have a player that plays like Joker from the Nuggets. He's a 6'10", 5-out 5-man that can really pass. So we haven't really seen that yet. It'll be interesting to see us guard that. And then, McNeese with Coach Will Wade down there, they're going to defend and play as hard as anybody. They're going to switch 1 through 5. And so we're going to have 2 drastically different game plans. Are we able to turn that around and compete Thursday and Saturday?
And a quick turnaround as well, going from that Thursday to Saturday, too.
Yeah, no doubt. You play Thursday night at 7 o'clock. You get up Friday, you drive 2.5 hours over to McNeese, and you better be prepared to play Saturday at 2 or else that's a team that can get hot and make it difficult on you.
If I quit this season, I still be the greatest.
Skyhawk Sports Talk Podcast is brought to you by Weekly Ford Nissan.
And welcome back to the Zaxby's in Martin, Tennessee. Alayna Walther from the UT Martin Rifle Team joins Chris and I now on the program. Junior from Avila, Pennsylvania, also the president of the Student Athlete Advisory Committee. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So before we get into Hawks for the holidays, this big fundraiser that UT Martin is going to be having, excellent purpose there as well to give presents to foster kids. Is that correct?
Yeah, it benefits like the weekly wishes. It's basically adopt a family, yeah.
So fantastic purpose for this fundraiser coming up. We'll get to that in a second, but want to focus in first on your fall season with the rifle team. All OVC first team last year in air rifle and just put up a new career high in air rifle at the Gamecock Invitational down in Jacksonville, Alabama. So that's a final event for the fall season. How do you feel you and the team performed here in the fall?
Well, we definitely did very, very well this past weekend. We set a record high for aggregate ever for our team, which was very impressive. We haven't hit that high in a very, very long time. So it was very nice to see that. And it's fun to do that, too. So.
Always fun to break records.
Yeah.
Always fun to break records. So for you, I guess, to explain to some of our listeners that don't know the difference, what's the difference between small bore and air rifle?
So small bore is we shoot 22s, and it's 3 positions. So we'll shoot 20 shots in kneeling, and then we'll shoot 20 shots prone and do 20 shots standing. And then for air rifle, it's a .17. It's a little closer. It's at 10 meters. And we just shoot 60 shots standing.
In your sport, and I've talked to other athletes in your sport, you almost have to be more aware of your mind and your body than in any other sport. And with your breathing and your heartbeat, explain that to us, how that process works.
Yeah, so you have to be completely still, like no caffeine, nothing the day before, as little sugar as possible, because you just want your heart rate to, basically be nothing if you can. But, yeah, we wear suits, like it's a big bulky suit, so it helps conceal, but it doesn't completely take away your heart rate.
Why does your heart rate bother your sport?
Because it can throw you off a target if your heart rate's going crazy. Because you can feel it, definitely. You can see it in your sights. It's bobbing up and down. So if you can,
in your sights, know when your heart is beating.
Yeah, you can see it.
That's fine-tuned right there. Yeah. So do you shoot between heartbeats, or do you pull the trigger between heartbeats or with the heartbeat?
You just basically, you see it going up and down, and you just squeeze off very, very gently. Because our triggers are not even a pound.
Wow.
So, yeah.
So it's that sensitive.
Yes, very sensitive.
That takes extreme focus.
Yeah, talk about precision, right? So how do you get into the sport of rifle?
Well, my dad got me into it when I was very young.
Okay.
I was about 10 years old when I had started. And he had done it. He went to college for it, and he actually was almost on the Olympic rifle team. He was very, very close, so he was very, very knowledgeable about it. So for him to have a child that wanted to do it and pursue it was very exciting for him, but he was a phenomenal coach growing up. He knew everything, and he still does. Sometimes even when I get nervous or something goes wrong, I'll still call him on the phone.
Yeah. Well, so what are some of the biggest tips that he was able to give you?
Well, it's kind of hard because as you grow up, you kind of, I don't know. His biggest thing is mental support, like mentally be there in the moment, because sometimes you're thinking of the next shot or, counting the points. Can I make 100 on this so that I can break a record? And his biggest thing is mentality. Don't do that, just shoot. Take every shot as it is, and you'll do just fine.
Has that carried over into life?
It has, yeah. Just be in the moment.
And so now we move on to Hawks for the holidays. So this benefits Weekly Wishes, you said before. part of the Division of Family Services, and this program allows people to purchase Christmas gifts for a foster child. And this fundraiser is going to take place on Friday, December 1st, also Saturday, December 2nd, and then something fun happening on December 6th. So tell us about this.
Sure. So Friday we have a fundraiser at Martin Nutrition. We're going to get 10% of the proceeds that day. So go out and get an energy drink or
Chris,
whatever you
an
want.
energy drink.
Not before you compete.
Yeah,
for
not
your
before
sport,
you
though.
compete. No
True.
caffeine.
Yep. And then on Saturday, what we're going to do is basically be guest baristas at Vantage and then at Higher Grounds. So we're going to basically hand the coffees out and explain kind of our mission and what we're doing that day. And our tips from that is going to go to the proceeds that we've already gotten from our student athletes.
Awesome. So what are the times that y'all are going to be there at the coffee places for being baristas?
Sure, we're going to be there from 7 to 3 p.m.
Okay, 7 to 3 p.m.
Have you ever been a barista? Are you good at this?
I don't know. I've done.
They're about to find out.
Yeah.
They're about to find out.
I'm sure if you can excel in your sport, you can handle being a barista.
I can make a black coffee.
There we go. There we go. So, I mean, Chris and I will come by. We'll get a black
Sure.
coffee, and we'll drop by a tip. There we go. There we go. So then on December 6th, on Wednesday, student athletes, they're going to actually play as Santa. So what's that going to be like?
So we're going to take all the Christmas lists that the children have made, and we're going to take those, go to Walmart, and try to buy as much as we can find for them and what they want. And then we're going to take all of those back to probably the field house, somewhere in the gym, and wrap them all right then and there. And then after they're all wrapped, we're going to take them to the families and play Santa.
How fun is that? I don't
gonna
know
be
what's
great.
the most fun, getting it or wrapping it. I'm not a very good rapper, though.
What would you
like Christmas present rapper.
No, yeah. So what would you rate your rapping skills?
I'm pretty good.
So, I mean, this is really going to test all of our student athletes' life skills.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
You're going to be working in a coffee shop,
Yeah.
and then you're going to have to wrap Christmas presents, then deliver them, and you've got to act as Santa.
Yeah.
I mean, you want to
Yeah.
talk about life skills that are going to have to be started to build up here in the next couple of days.
No doubt.
But a very exciting time,
Yes.
though. I mean, what's your favorite thing? What's the thing that you're most excited about here as we get started for Hawks for the holidays?
I'm so excited to see the children's faces.
Oh, that's going to
Like,
be awesome.
I love giving, and this is such a great thing we're doing for the community. Like, I'm just so excited for it.
A great cause for sure. So this is open to anyone who wants to help too. So Chris, you can I don't know. Are student athletes the only people who can be Santa, or can we also be Santa?
I think it's more directed towards student
Okay,
athletes,
all right, then that's understandable.
But
That's
we
understandable.
can make donations to help
Yeah,
them be
yeah.
Santa. Yeah.
So technically, we are Santa
That's
by doing
right.
that. Okay, so
In a way.
as long as we kind of get a title, we're attached to it in some way, I'll take it.
Yeah.
I'll take it. So I want to give credit though. Ashley Bynum has done this for the last few years with SAAC. But they've taken it over to try to make this, all hands on deck tradition. And this is going to be awesome for years to come.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It is going to be a really great time. Well, thanks so much for joining us on the show.
you.
And Hawks for the Holidays, go out, get your coffees, go to Martin Nutrition, and then contribute, and we can all be Santa to these kids. It's going to be a really great cause and a really great time.
If I quit this season, I still be the greatest.
Skyhawk Sports Talk Podcast is brought to you by Weekly Ford Nissan.
Jolyta Henderson from the UT Martin track and field team joins us now as the Skyhawks going to open up the track and field indoor season this Saturday. And for lone event in December as well, the Saluki Fast Start in Carbondale, Illinois cross country over, and now a quick transition. So no rest for the weary. Coaches, y'all get ready for track and field.
No, not at all. We don't get rest.
And multiple school records broken last year. Going to be another exciting season for your program.
Most definitely. I've been excited about track every year because it's just, it's endless possibilities. There's so many events. You never know what you're going to get with people. But this year we have a very talented group, like extremely talented. So I'm excited to see what we can do.
And do you have some athletes sometimes that compete in events they didn't compete in high school?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Because, my job is to get the best out of you, what it is. No shade on high school coaches, but some of them, they're kind of just there to help because track is a sport like, oh, yeah, go out there and run and we'll see what you do.
Yeah.
But my job is to get the best out of them.
So you see that potential. And
Yeah.
Say, hey, maybe you need to do this. Yeah.
I have a girl on our roster and she ran the 1 and 2 and I'm like, you're a 400 runner. Like you're better at the 4. And I train her as such and
She was?
Yeah,
was
she
better at
most
the
definitely is better at the 4.
And that's a challenge, though, to get people out of their comfort zones.
Yes.
So how do you as a coach make sure to tell them, because no one likes getting out of their comfort zone.
Of course not.
But how do you approach them and say, you know, let's try something new here. Let's get out of our comfort zone and go for this. And how do you get them to commit to that?
So I sneak it into their workouts.
That's good.
yeah. I sneak it into their workouts. So, like, I may give them a couple more reps or just a little bit more volume. And then, you know, when it comes out and you're like, oh, yeah, you're going to run the 4. They're like, I'm not trained for the 4. I'm like, oh, yes, you are.
You have been.
You are.
Yeah.
But a good motto that we live by on our team is you have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. Because, I mean, I feel like with any sport, you have to be able to go through the suffering in order to get the success. So there's no way in the world, like, it can't be easy. If it was easy, everybody would do it. Everybody would be a Division I athlete if it was easy, and it's not. So let's hurt a little bit, and trust me, you're gonna like it at the end.
How much in your reps and your work practices? How much are you keeping up with stats and analytics just to track what's going on?
Oh,
to
it's
prepare?
a lot.
Yeah,
it's
no,
a lot
it
of
is a lot,
science to
right?
it. Yes,
Yeah.
I make 20 different workouts per month because each person is different. So everybody doesn't have the same workouts. Everybody doesn't have the same practice plans. Everybody's body's different. Everybody training level is different. So some people may need more. Some people may need less. So yeah, it takes a lot.
And when you get to the point, because we just talked about it, cross country ending a few weeks ago, and now we're on to this new season for track and field. We talked about the transition for the athletes. When you go into scheduling for their weightlifting program, for their training, how do you change things around for them coming off of that long season for cross country?
Yeah, so the cross athletes, we give them a couple weeks off, and then they start to get back into rhythm. So, like, we have this meet in December, distance won't go. They're not ready to go super fast. You've been, used to, let's tempo, let's, keep our heart rate a certain way. And, we're not ready to go, like, super fast. So they won't compete until January. And during that time is where we transition all their workouts and their weightlifting into more of, like, okay, it's time to go fast. It's time to, like, in the weight room we train them as a sprinter, but on track we train them as a distance runner. So then they get the speed without actually having to do it all the time.
Right.
Simplify the difference. No, the difference between speed and then distance when it comes to weightlifting.
Okay, so actually they lift the same way as the sprinters. Now they don't lift as much as far as, like, the days, because sprinters lift 3 times, distance only does twice. But they still power clean, they still do back squats, they do bench press and all that stuff. Some things are a little bit more core based because they need it a little bit more. Whereas the sprinters is like, okay, let's go heavy, like let's be strong and stuff like that, because it's just 2 different.
Does too much muscle slow you down?
Yes.
Wow. So,
Yes.
but you know where that line is.
Yes, you have to know what it is.
I've seen it in the NBA and even college. Sometimes guys bulk up too much; they're not as quick.
Yeah. I mean, I've had athletes to lift a little bit more than what they should have, and they didn't perform that great. And then I said, you guys stop what you're doing. They stop what they're doing, and they look a little bit better.
Yeah.
I'm like, if you look at the Olympics, I go, nobody looks like that.
Right.
Like,
Right.
track athletes can't look like basketball players.
Right.
Or football
Muscle's
players.
heavy. Yeah, muscle
Yes.
heavy and dense.
Yes,
Yeah.
very much so.
It is. And so we talked about now the transition for your cross country team, but what's the transition like for you and your staff to go from cross country season to now getting ready for track?
It's no longer preparing for 30 people to travel. It's 60 people to travel.
Ooh,
I can't
so
even
much
imagine.
more fun.
Yeah.
So now it's like, okay, we don't take vans. We got to take a bus
Yeah.
and a van.
Yeah.
We got to book a whole hotel, not
Yeah.
just like a couple
And
rooms.
It is.
The most
The Hampton
complicated.
Inn is now the UT Martin Inn
Yeah.
for the night.
But the complicated part's the food.
Oh, yeah. So for a cross, we can go somewhere. Like, we can go to a restaurant and eat because it's not that many of us. For track, everything's catered. Everything's catered to the hotel. Everything's catered to the track. Like, yeah, we need 60 sandwiches delivered. Like, we're not going anywhere because we're not going to stop people up like that. So, yeah, it just takes a longer time to prepare for weeks. We have to start off earlier and make sure everything's taken care of before the end of the week.
Yeah.
And now, does nutrition change when you go from cross to track, or does it stay the same?
It stays the same. Sprinters eat a lot. They eat a lot. Distance eats a lot, too. They do. But sprint men
That surprises
eat
me.
a whole
well,
lot.
I would have thought that long distance would burn more calories.
now they do. But you also gotta think of, like, body type.
Yeah.
And so, like, they're only but so big. Whereas, like, I got guys that are 6'5", 200 pounds. Yeah, he gonna eat.
Yeah.
He
Are there
gonna
many
eat.
that are really good at both sprinting and long distance? Can you? Is
we
it
don't
rare?
have-
Is it rare?
It is rare.
Yeah.
It is rare because you have to have a certain body type to be able to handle both, to be good at both. Now, you can have somebody that's good at, like, the 15 and the 800, so that middle distance. They probably can come down and run the 4, but you're not going to get like a 46 out of them. You might get like a 48. So they wouldn't be a true sprinter in that case. But, yeah.
Fascinating.
And we talked about your excitement now for this season. When you look back at last year, we were just talking about the championship rings, too. You're designed for them as those are coming in from last season. What's one thing you want to make sure that you improve on from last year here in this campaign?
I want a lot more rings. I want a lot more rings.
Everyone loves rings.
And, you know, like, with our team, it's hard to win a championship because we still don't have a full roster. You know, we've talked about that before. And I like the size of our team. I do. I think for our school and where we're at, I think it's a decent size for our team. We could win a lot more individual titles this year. And I'm excited to see that. I have not put that pressure on my team at all whatsoever. They don't know that's really what I want. I know they're about to know now. But, like, I think we could do some damage in the conference.
Well, that's high praise for them because you believe in them.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah.
And on the men's side, as we focus in on both teams now, what are some of the strengths for them? You've got Khalid White back, won OVC Freshman of the Year last season. What are some of the strengths for them?
My men's team is crazy. Like, I'm trying not to get overexcited about it, but, like, they look so good. Like, you mentioned Lid. We were in practice, and Lid was like, Coach, I feel good. I'm like, that's dangerous. I'm like, that's dangerous. He's like, I didn't feel like this last year. I said, your training's different. I'm training you at a, higher speed, higher volume. He's like, I feel really, really good. So that makes me nervous as a coach because track, you want ups and downs. You don't want straight ups because then they'll plateau really quickly. You don't want that. You don't want them to peak. And it's a long season. So I have to hold him back a little bit more. I have to hold some people back. But I'm not going to lie. We got 6'8" high jumper. We got Darius coming back that went to NCAA first rounds. You got MJ about to get healthy. Like, we could win. I'm looking at trying to win long, triple, high jump, DMR, 4x4, 4x1. Like, we got a dangerous team coming back.
I have to add, you said something, though, that just blows my mind. It's something that I've learned in life is that progress is not linear.
Yeah, it's not.
And you just said that linear progress is almost a disadvantage.
Yes.
Like, you need this.
You have to.
Why? But I agree with you, but explain to me why.
If you can PR at every single meet, I'm doing something wrong. At some point, you have to have a low in order to get to a higher height. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, so it has to go over that. I mean, Usain Bolt said it himself. He trained 4 years for 9 seconds. You know, like, our warm-up is 1 hour and 30 minutes for a race that's less than a minute.
Yeah.
Like, everybody.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So let's move away from sports. If progress is not linear and if life mirrors sports, how does that equate to life, what you just said?
Well, see, like, I tell them that, too. Like, we talk about that. I'm like, every day can't be sunshines and rainbows. You have to have those darker days in order to be able to see the light or appreciate the light, you know? Yeah. So, like, take those challenges, go over those hurdles, accept those obstacles, because, like, when you get to the end, it's going to be so much better.
Yeah.
So much better.
Well, it's the hero's journey. I was recently listening to something, and really the strongest people in the world have probably had the most adversity.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now on to the women's side. What are you seeing from them?
Ooh, my women's team is young, but they're hungry. So they saw what they had last year and, like, we're better than that. And they are. I recruited 11 women last year, so for them to come in and they're like, oh, yeah, we're ready. We're not freshmen anymore. Like, we're sophomores. Like, we're ready to get back on the track. They're going to be dangerous, too. My women's DMR, we have a chance to win that. 400 open, 60 open. My hurdlers are fast. They are fast this year, so we'll see what happens.
And it's going to be such a big gap between Saturday's meet and then the next one at Vanderbilt on January 12th. So this one this weekend, December 2nd, and then January 12th. How do you make sure, regardless of the result on Saturday for your athletes and for your team, you don't overthink on that in that gap of time? Because I feel like that's really possible because you sit down and you look at some of the results. Well, somebody, they were really, really good, and then maybe you overthink on that too much or someone didn't have their best day and you're thinking, oh, come on, we got to be better than that. But that gap gives you so much time to think too much on it.
Well, yeah, so that's why Saturday is a rust buster, and I tell them, like, treat it as a glorified practice. Let's get on a good surface. Let's spike up. Let's have fun. You know, like Saturday is for fun. Like let's have some fun. Of course, you want to see where you at. Of course, I want to see where you at and how you compete. But this is also a time for me to learn my freshmen. How do you act on race day? Are you nervous before you run? Like I have some people that like throw up before they run. Like I need to know those things. So then come January, I can spend all winter preparing for how do I need to talk to you for the rest of the year, like before your races and stuff like that. So it's a learning experience for me, just to step back and watch. I don't coach much on this Saturday.
Is it okay to be nervous before you run?
You most definitely.
Okay.
If you're not nervous, I'm worried.
Okay.
You know, because when you're nervous, that means you feel like you have something to lose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm fired up for track and field.
No, track is back.
I just want her to train.
Let's train us. We need to get the Rocky music going, and then we can really get bulked up and ready to go. Put us out there for the relay race.
Let's go.
I've been training on Mario and Sonic Olympic games since I was a kid on the Wii. So hey, I've won some gold medals in the 100-meter dash.
As you should.
Oh. I mean, I've got the speed.
I've
got the speed.
I've been training my whole life at taking naps, and I'm pretty good.
Gold medalist
in
the nap for Chris Brinkley.
If I quit this season, I still be the greatest.
Skyhawk Sports Talk Podcast is brought to you by Weekly Ford Nissan.
Battle against North Alabama, but the Lions get the win there, 70-63. Freshmen led the way, though. Nora Clark, 15.6 rebounds. Morgan Borgstadt with 13 points, 4 rebounds. Sophomore Naya Brown having a double-double with 10 points, 10 rebounds, and a big third quarter for the Skyhawks, outscoring UNA 23-10. Coach, what stuck out about you to your squad last Tuesday?
Well, probably the third quarter. We struggled offensively again, and so we made a little adjustment at halftime, and they looked like they got really comfortable. And when they did, we had a big scoring run and looked really good in the third quarter. We just aren't ready to sustain something for an entire game or half or whatever, because as good as we looked, the referees called a couple of offensive fouls on our post kids, which doesn't bother me in the least. You know, if you don't get a couple of fouls in the post, you're probably not posting very hard. But that made our kids hesitant, and so we quit being aggressive, and that just started a snowball, and we weren't able to overcome it. But we also had 27 turnovers, and it slept walk through the first quarter. So, the fact that, but our kids are good enough right now to be in games and giving themselves a chance. But getting over that hump is the next big step.
And when you talk about these young players, just a minute to adjust on things. You've talked about tweaking the offense with them as well. How do you make sure you're staying patient with them, but also with yourself right now?
That's a good question, because you wonder how patient you should be with them. When they're trying to do what you want them to do and they're giving you everything they got, they deserve as much patience as you can give them. But then there's also times where, because of their youth, they just break out because they're not very disciplined. And so you should chew on them then. But if they're still playing hard and giving you effort, it's just hard. It's a balance.
What do you mean break out?
If we say run play number 1 and they go out and run, don't do it, and do something different. That never bothers me. Like I teach them, here's the framework of our offense. And any time that our offense provides an advantage for you that you can see that you can take advantage of and go score, that makes that offense way better. But if you're going to just go dot to dot to dot to dot, well, it's not so good. So I want them to break out. The problem is that they're not experienced enough or disciplined enough yet to go, okay, I have a shot on the first pass with nobody guarding me, and we have not gotten the ball in the paint in the last 6 possessions. I'm going to jack this one. Mm-hmm. They don't know that's not a good shot. Don't take that one. So if that's a senior, I'm chewing on that senior because they know better. Well, these kids don't know better. They've got to go through and learn all of this, and unfortunately, you'll have to learn the hard way.
Yeah.
And the hard way is to make mistakes and get your tail beat and
but I know with you, even if they make the shot, you might not be happy that they took the shot. So
then they're more confused.
Yeah, they learn from the feedback from you, the assistant coaches, and their older teammates. And the only way you get that's through experience.
Exactly. And so when I can see it in their eyes when I get on them and they did something right, but I still get on them, you can literally see them go, I have no idea what planet I'm on right now. And it's like, and I'm just sitting here going, okay, when I look at that, I go, okay, I know what this means. It means we're going to make this mistake a lot more until they go, oh, that's what you were. Yeah, that's what I was trying to explain to you 47 times. And you don't listen. You know, for instance, yesterday in practice, we were doing something and they started scoring. I mean, scoring. And I was like, okay, good. So we subbed. We made one sub. And they quit doing what we'd been doing. And I said, stop. Whoa, wait a minute. We just scored 5 times in a row. And now we're doing something different. Why are we doing something different? And you could just see they just look at you. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, this is where you have to be disciplined enough. The defense is going to try to take something away from you. You got to go, no, we're going to do it anyway. But they're like, well, but she did this, so I just went there. Yeah. If you've scored 5 straight times and I'm on defense, I'm going to make you do something different. And they're like, yeah? And I'm like, but you're supposed to make them do it. Just keep repeating it. It worked. Oh. So I made them do it, forced them to do it, right? Even though the defense wouldn't let them. I said, no, I don't care what the defense does. Defense, don't let them do it. And I said, y'all got to do it anyway. They scored 3 straight times.
Wow. Yeah.
But then guess what? After that, we subbed again, and they went back and went back again. Yeah. And so with our youth, this is what we're going to be for a while. I mean, for a while. But what is so scary is that we played Vanderbilt, South Dakota State, and Marquette, who are top teams in the country. We play those teams tough. And we're just not ready to take that next step, which is own our games and stuff. And, it is frustrating. And I guess I'm probably the most frustrated with myself because I look at it from if you were a good enough coach, then they would get it quicker. Then the offense would be clicking better. So you have to be a better coach. And that's a rabbit hole you don't want to go down because, you could go for infinity about that. But as long as they're busting their butt and they're trying the best they can, I mean, you can pretty much live with whatever.
And again, a lot of youth really the past couple of years, but having a lot of upperclassmen talent prior to this, Chelsea, Maddie, and then Sagan and Paige had a ton of years with you as well. I mean, how have you adjusted to taking on a very young team, and what's the transition been like for you with so many lowerclassmen on the roster?
Well, honestly, the season probably started for us on Saturday, probably, because we thought we were going to be one team in the summer, and it was evident that wasn't quite what we were going to be in the fall. And then losing 2 players, Allie and Shay, for the season, we've had to readjust again. And so probably we're just now starting we're now in June. And so we're now starting to build. The only thing is you got to build quick.
Yeah.
So I kind of know what I think we're going to do, but it's going to take us, a good month to get anywhere even decent at it. And so I'm hoping that if we can just get to next week. Next week is the key because that's when exams hit. And that's when classes end and we get more time during the Christmas break to work with them. And so maybe we're going to try to make up for it with our time during that Christmas break.
What's that look like? Practice twice a day or big, long practices?
You can practice long. You can practice twice a day. The thing that I'm really hoping will help them is that we may practice and go watch what we just did.
Watch the practice.
And then go back out and practice again. Yeah. And I'm not talking – and what I'm trying to do now is these aren't hard practices like I typically do. Because we can't. One, we don't have the numbers, but 2 is these kids don't understand. When we go out and start practicing really, really hard, they don't understand why. And if you don't understand why you're doing something, then you're probably not really doing it well.
Right.
And so.
Nor will you continue to do it when things get tough because you don't understand the power of the why. Yeah.
And so. We're going to try to get them to understand, okay, this is what we're doing and this is why we're doing it. And once they get it, then we'll take off. And you mentioned it before. The history of our program has always been we always have played good freshmen. Always. We've had more freshmen of the year than anybody. But the reason is there was always juniors and seniors out there with them to protect them. And that when things got tough and they kind of backed down, these other kids could raise up. Well, now when my freshmen are backing down, there's a freshman that's supposed to pick them up. Well, that freshman doesn't understand. They don't know. And so,
the biggest example of that maybe is Asia. When
that's a wonderful example
because she was playing with Heather and Jasmine.
Wonderful
example. So I took
example.
pressure off of her, and she was pretty amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, because
amazing.
she was good, but they also took some pressure off of her.
Exactly, and the same thing with Katie Schubert.
Yeah,
and Shay Warfield Cross. That year, all those kids played and were young, and it's just when you're young, you tend to be a roller coaster up and down. As you get older, you get to be more steady. And right now we don't have anything that's steady. So we're literally going to play one quarter and score. I mean, we were lucky. Chris, you're being really nice over there about our first quarter. We were lucky to score in the first quarter. That's how bad our offense was. But then in the third quarter, we scored 23 points and probably could have had 30.
Yeah.
How does one team go from not being able to score in one quarter to scoring 30 in another quarter? I mean, that is an extremely poorly coached team, probably.
Yeah.
Right now, we're poorly coached. That's an extremely young team. It's an extremely erratic team, not disciplined. But what it shows you is the range. What's so frustrating is the range. Mm-hmm. In one quarter, we can't score. In one quarter, we score 30. If we ever figure out that 30 score and can repeat it and repeat it and repeat it, I think we can be really good. The question is, can we figure out how to get them understand how to repeat something? And when you go into practice and you score 5 times and then you quit doing it, there you go. You're not going to be able to sustain anything.
What do you think about that pace? There was a crazy pace.
It was stupid for us.
Okay.
We can't play that way.
Davis, it was run, gun, and holler for a while.
It was ridiculous. And our kids played into that because we're not disciplined enough to say, wait a minute, no, we're not doing that. No, they just started, flying up and down. Mm-hmm. So I did everything I could to try to slow them down without saying slow down, because if I say slow down, they're going to start walking. So it's like you have to, this is where I needed a psychology degree to figure out how to say the right things to get them to do without overdoing it. I can tell a senior, quit being crazy and sprinting up and down the field, slow down. And they'll go, oh, okay, calm down and let's play. You tell that to these guys, and they literally will go, oh, and start walking.
Yeah.
Well, you told me to slow down. I was like, okay, I didn't tell you to crawl. and so it's just figuring out how to get them to respond is the biggest challenge. And it's really hard. It just magnifies it when you're talking about freshmen and sophomores who are already erratic, just because they are. But I don't know when they're going to figure it out. I don't know when. But I have not had a team in a long time, maybe ever, that South Dakota State, Marquette, we rebounded as well or better than them, and we scored inside. We haven't had that. So we've got it. So there's pieces here to this puzzle that we have not had in a long, 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 long time. The problem is that those pieces, they change their own shape. So we're putting together a puzzle that one day has a piece that's a rectangle, and the next day it's a square, and the next day it's a circle. And so it's really hard to put that piece of puzzle. It's maddening. That needs to be something we create. We need to create a puzzle that changes the shapes as you do it.
Each puzzle piece.
Yeah. So after you do it, you leave it. Okay. 5 minutes later, that piece is a different shape. Now figure out how to put that puzzle together.
Yeah. As you take on Murray State tomorrow, I don't know how they still have Caitlin Young, but they still have Caitlin Young on their team. And, again, very talented roster that they have. And then Evansville on Saturday.
Murray is playing really fast and jacking it and playing about 10 or 12 kids. And they've got half the team is juniors and seniors, and then they've got some sophomores and a freshman. So that's going to be a challenge because we can't control, again, speed. And I honestly know nothing about Evansville because I haven't gotten that far. So be a tough week.
And UT Martin Murray State coming up tomorrow, and then Evansville at home on Saturday as the Skyhawks will take them on. And make sure to tune in on the podcast exclusive segment as we'll talk a little bit about, we're now finally in the month of December.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
you know, is it appropriate now time to put up your Christmas tree? I would think so.
Oh. Coach McMillan, you want to give the radio listeners a hint of this longer discussion that will be on our podcast? When do you put up a Christmas tree?
Whenever my daughter tells me we're putting up the Christmas tree. And that was 2 weeks ago. So our
Okay, so it was
tree
before
went up
Thanksgiving.
2 weeks ago.
Up? I would have never guessed.
It went up 2 weeks ago. I said, as long as she's participating,
Yep.
it'll go up whenever she participates.
What if she don't want to take it down and then it's just up next Christmas?
It'll go down around January 1st.
Okay, so that's a regular tradition.
Yep.
Then. Okay.
So before Thanksgiving and then take it down January 1st.
Yeah.
I think that's fair.
That's a good answer. I think it's up to what your family wants to do.
I agree.
Well, listen, my mom will put it up on Halloween. And then she'll get mad at me for saying that. She puts it up on Halloween.
Can I ask him a question while we're here on video on the podcast? What if I get you a smartphone for Christmas?
I won't use it. You can. David Hart tried to give me his one year.
Show the camera your phone.
And
yeah, that's it.
And I just
What century is that from?
This one is, I think, 3 years old.
Okay.
4.
Really?
Yeah.
So they still make them.
Yeah. And you want to know the best part of it?
Are those speakers on the bottom of it?
You want to know the best part of it?
Yeah.
Look, you ready?
Yeah.
I don't think you're ready.
Okay.
I have a flashlight.
Wow.
Can you believe that?
You do.
I have a flashlight.
It took 13
and I can turn it
seconds
off.
to engage it.
Yeah, it takes me a second to find one. I don't know where it is, but I know I've got one.
That's impressive. So you would not use a smartphone even if you got one?
No.
What's the, I guess, why won't you use one?
How long is this podcast segment? I have
however Midley doesn't want to edit. He says as long as he wants.
I'm old-fashioned, and I believe that social media is the bane of my existence. And I think out of the 100 things that happen in social media, 5 of them are good and 95 are bad.
That's fair.
And so when I look at something logically, I go 95% of the time this is not good. So why do we do it? And so now, granted, if you want to see my kids, they have phones like y'all. I mean, and I lost that battle a long time ago. But this is my little way of rebelling. But I have no qualms, no misgivings, no misunderstanding about nobody cares.
Yeah.
Nobody cares about my statement.
Well,
nobody.
Well, maybe. So when you go to the service provider, do they try to talk you into?
Absolutely. They want you to get data.
Yeah.
That's where they make their money. They want data. Now, what they have done that really makes me mad is you used to get flip phones for free.
Yeah,
I mean, you just got them for free.
Yeah.
Well, now this phone costs like $350, $400.
No way.
Yes.
Wow.
$350, $400, and you can get a smartphone for nothing.
Cheaper.
Yeah. So, but that's what they're trying to do to make me go get that. I'm like, I don't care. I'm not doing it.
It's counterintuitive because they make more money off you in the long run than they do in the short term.
And then they say, but you can turn your data off. I said, I don't care. I don't want it. I do not want it.
Oh, my goodness.
Anyway.
Okay.
All right, so that's a great start here to our final segment.
Yeah.
Okay, now I'm going to start with some Christmas movie takes, Coach. Are you ready for this?
Okay.
All right. Is Die Hard a Christmas movie?
Maybe.
Maybe? Yeah. Okay.
Is it a yes or no question?
I mean, you can explain your answer.
It's got Christmas in it, so I'd say maybe.
So then is Home Alone a Christmas movie also?
Yes.
Okay. So that's a yes on Home Alone, maybe on Die Hard.
Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough. What's better, the original Grinch or Jim Carrey's Grinch, the live-action one?
You talking about the cartoon Grinch?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
The cartoon Grinch.
The cartoon one?
Yeah.
Okay. Fruitcake or no for the holidays?
Oh, gosh, no. Oh, my gosh.
I couldn't wait to ask that
no,
one when I put it down.
No.
Coach, how do you really feel about fruitcake?
No.
Yeah, let's actually.
Next. Move on.
So how do you nicely ignore the Christmas carolers when they come to your house?
Well, they can't find my house. So I've never had a Christmas carol. Not one, ever. Or a Halloween person. So it's wonderful. It's wonderful.
Chris, you got anything else?
That's it.
Listen,
no. I thought we were going to have a good one here.
I'll have more tuned up
back
next
to
time.
His flip phone.
Yeah, I'll have more tuned up next time. I promise.
All right,
I promise.
fair enough.
More tuned up. Well, Coach, thanks so much for joining us. Chris, anything before we sign off?
I told you never know with Coach.
No, hey, listen, I love it. We look like we could drop that phone off the Empire State Building and survive. I mean, that is built
it's
up.
fine. It won't. You'll be fine.
Look at that. I mean, it is
Whatever.
It is well built.
If I quit this season, I still be the greatest.
Skyhawk Sports Talk Podcast is brought to you by Weekly Ford Nissan.